Hello everyone and welcome back to another single button guide. Today we're going to talk about the Havoc Demon Hunter. And this one has been very requested. I even posted a meme about it because I was just trying to relax and playing Legion Remix. But let's just say that Havoc Demon Hunters players, they haven't let me alone. Just kidding, just kidding. So basically, this is a guide as always. We're going to talk about the stats, the talents, the rotation. Then I'm going to show you a 10-minute dungeon where I'm going to play the spec here so you can actually see how it looks like in a dungeon. And then we're going to do a very quick summary. So if you are here for just the use information, just quickly everything you need to know in 3 minutes, then you can jump now to this summary section in the end of the video and I will tell you everything you need to know in 3 minutes. But if you really want to learn every single thing about the spec here and how we play with the single button assistant, then watch the entire video, which is probably going to be like an hour long or something like that. But yeah, let's jump into it. So let's talk about stats. First of all, we of course go with agility. What I mean by agility is you should try to get the highest upgrade levels. So as you can see, we have the Explore, Adventure, Veteran, Champion, Hero, Myth. So for example, if you open up your inventory, let me show you here, and you look at one of your items, you can see this item here I have here is called an Explore. Let me just try to fit it in here correctly. There we go. So you can see this one here is Explore, which is the worst one of the upgrade levels. The only reason I would ever, choose another item from this one here is if it has better secondary stats or if it was a higher upgrade level. So you can see right now it's Explore, which means it can be maximum eye level 642 to 664. So again, for example, but if this one here was actually, let's say, for example, like my weapon here, it's also an Explore. Even if I found another Explore weapon, then I would of course look at the secondary stats, which you can see up there. But no matter what, if I had a champion item and I ever found something that was lower than champion, for example, a veteran item, I would never go down to a veteran item. Even if the secondary stats is better, I would always go with the highest upgrade level because the increase of agility in it is just too important. So always go with the highest upgrade level. It doesn't matter if it's upgrade 3 out of 4 or 3 out of 8 or 4 out of 8, just the one with the highest upgrade level. And of course, if you then get two items that has the same upgrade level, like both champions, then you will go with the one that has the best secondary stats for you. Just so you understand. Cool. Then the next one we are going to go with is Critical Strike. You might be asking, okay, why Critical Strike? So basically, as I wrote here, your main stat, meta defining stat increasing both how often and how hard you crit, thanks to Know Your Enemy. So basically, we have a talent in here called Know Your Enemy, this one here. This one here. Gain critical strike damage equal to 80% of your critical strike chance. So the more crit you have, the harder crit damage you're also gonna do, which is quite insane. So you're going to be doing a lot of more crits with a more crit, but you're also going to be doing insanely higher crits as well. So just, more crit is just godlike for this build here. So yeah, try to get as much crit as possible. Then we have Mastery. Mastery is really, really nice because Mastery is just increasing all our chaos damage and also increasing our movement speed, which can be super, super nice. So very nice. Yeah, so try always to keep getting more critical strike and more mastery. Very important. Then we have haste, smooths out the global cooldown, and cooldown for steadier fury flow. So basically, what it basically does is when we're using the single button assistant here, we are getting punished by a global cooldown by 25%, which is normally a global cooldown is 1.5 seconds, and with this one here, it's 1.8. So by using more haste, we can help, making the global cooldown even smaller, which is very nice. So also it helps, of course, with your auto attacks, faster auto attacks, and it also helps us with getting more energy regeneration since we'll be attacking faster. So it's nice. It kind of like makes the entire rotation be very smart, like very fast, but you don't want too much haste. Like like 20 is like a good cap to have as a Havoc Demon Hunter. You really want to have more crit and mastery, but it would still be nice to have like around 20% haste in case. Then we have versatility. It flat out increases the damage and also flat out decreases the damage you take. It's a nice stat, but not compared to the other stats we can get. So, I mean, it's not like bad if you get versatility. It's still like going to increase your damage, but still all the other three ones is still more better. So that's the entire stats, I would say, for Havoc Demon Hunters. So we basically have two builds as usually. We have a single button assistant dungeon build and a single button assistant raid build. The dungeon build is all about getting immolation aura to deal more damage, AoE bleeding, just a lot of AoE damage. And then we have the raid build, which is more about like damage bursts, damage buffs, and also being able to be longer time inside Metamorphosis. So basically, yeah, a very strong single target raid build, which is all about dealing more damage to one target, where the dungeon build is more about killing a lot of targets in one time. Of course, the dungeon build is the best one I would recommend for leveling, dungeons, delves, anything except raids. Inside raids, I recommend using the raid build because it's more like focused on dealing direct damage to a raid boss. I know most people is actually using Felscad in raids, but when looking at the damage numbers, it's more often that Eldraki actually deals more damage compared to Felscad. So I would still personally recommend you just to go with Eldraki for raid. When we talk about dungeon and delves, Eldraki is no matter the choice. Like you would always use Eldraki in dungeons. Felscad is sometimes very nice in raids, but just to make this video easier and like for everyone to understand the build, I went with the raid Eldraki build because it is just so much easier to just focus on one build instead of we have like two very, very different builds, since the Felscad works in a totally different way. So yeah, so this is what I went with, the Eldraki Revo dungeon build and raid build. The dungeon build, no matter what, everyone uses Eldraki. For the raid build, it's kind of like a little 50-50 on people using either Felscad or Eldraki. But if you don't like it, I mean, you can always find a meta build for Felscad in case. But yeah, let's jump into even more details about the talents. So let's start with the talent tree in the left side. First of all, we have Sigil of Misery. It's basically like an AoE fear, so you can throw it in the middle of a pack of mobs, and they all start fearing, like, you know, doing nothing for 15 seconds. It can, like, if you have a group of mobs which is like throwing a lot of bad stuff at the same time, then you can use this one here and interrupt them all. It's very nice. Then we have one more charge on Fel Rush, so basically now we can use twice Fel Rushes. Very nice to get out of fire. Then we have Vengeful Retreat, very important spell, because it actually has a synergy over here, where every time we attack a mob before the mob attack us, we will get 10% increased critical strike. We can actually reset being able to get this buff again inside combat on the same mob when using Vengeful Retreat. So that's why we want to use Vengeful Retreat as well in our normal rotation, because it keeps giving us, like you can see now, if I attack this mob here, I get 10% increase in critical strike. Now I use Vengeful Retreat, and next time I attack, I can actually reset it like that. So instead of only being able to have it 5 seconds in a combat with a mob, we can have it 10 seconds. And of course, every time Vengeful Retreat is ready, every 25 seconds, then we can of course get the buff one more time. It's just because a lot of people, they think Vengeful Retreat has no purpose in PvE, but it does because of this one over here. Then we also have maximum extra 20 Fury, so instead of only having 100 Fury, we now have 120 Fury. We also have 10% increased healing from our Shattered Souls. We also have that Throw Glaives jump to one additional target, so instead of only being able to, I actually don't know how many it actually jumps to. If we find it here, it jumps to 2 additional enemies. So now you can see if I use it, like that, need to get some Fury, like this. Now if I use it here, you can see it jumps between all of them, which is very, very powerful because it leaves a very, very strong bleeding on them because of the talent we have over here called Soul Scar. So some people think that, you know, glaives is only like for like CC or, you know, like slowing or pulling, but it actually, because of this talent over here, it also deals a lot of damage. Passively, it deals 77k damage, which is okay, but now at least it jumps to 3 targets, which is okay damage, and they all bleed from it as well. So it's quite nice, but you don't have to think about it because it's inside the single button rotation. Then we also have Imprison. It's basically a sheep for 1 minute. So if you have a mob there, you don't want to like fight at the same time you're fighting them out there, you can like sheep it for 1 minute, but you can only use it on demon, beast, or humanoid. We also get healing from 3% of all the fire damage we deal. We also have another stun as ability we can use. So basically, if engage, kind of like, you know, we have Sigil of Misery, where we could fear them all for 15 seconds. We also have Chaos Nova, which stuns everyone around you for 2 seconds. Also Very nice. So we have 2 spells we can use to interrupt them, a bigger group of monsters if they're casting something they shouldn't be casting, or if the tank is taking a lot of damage and you kind of like want to give him a 1 second break or something like that. Then we also have increased range of Disrupt. So basically Disrupt is our main interrupting ability. Imagine you have a boss who's about to fight something very bad, then you can use the Disrupt on him or her, and then you will basically interrupt them. Then we also have Consume Magic. In case the mob here got like a buff, a magic buff, like a healing all time ability or something that makes them stronger, we can actually remove that one every 10 seconds. Also very nice. Also, each enemy stunned by Chaos Nova has a 30% chance to generate Lesser Soul Fragment. We are also using Throw Glaive, has 2 additional charges, and snares all enemies for hit by 50% for 6 seconds. In dungeons, we're using this one here, where it also snares them to make them slower. In Raid, we're using the one where we're increasing the range, because in Raid you usually don't fight like bosses, you cannot make bosses walk slower. So we're using the range in raids. You could also use this one in dungeon, but sometimes people like to be able to slow down mobs if you want to get away from them or something like that. We also have Fell Blade. A lot of people again also think this one here is a spell that only is used for charging or getting close to the target because it doesn't deal too much damage, but actually it still deals 120k damage, which is okay, and it also gives us 40 fury, but beside of that, it's a very important spell later in the Eldrazi tree, because this one here actually makes Fellblade consume up to 5 Nerby soul fragments, which is very important to activate our Reaver's Glaive. I will get into that later, but it's actually a very important spell in our rotation that you're gonna keep using. Also, Demon Blade has a chance to reset the cooldown of Fail Blade, which is our passive attack. Instead of having a Demon's Bite, we're basically having Demon's Blade, which is like a spell you just keep. It's your auto attack. So now your auto attack is dealing 18k damage all the time. We also have increased the critical strike chance of Immolation Aura. We also have Mastery increases your movement speed. We also have 10% increased leech. So every time you deal damage, 10% of the damage you deal is actually going to heal back to you. And with your Insight Metamorphosis, we actually get additional 10% leech. We also have Spectral Sight has 5-second reduced cooldown and no longer reduces movement speed. We also have reduced magic damage taken by 5. We also have Eye Beam causes you to enter demon form for 5 seconds after it finished dealing damage, which is very, very nice. We also have maximum increased health by 5%. We also have increased mastery by 4.5. Very, very nice. We also have darkness. While you're using darkness, it grants you and your friendly targets 50% chance to avoid all damage from an attack. Chance to avoid damage is increased by 100 when not in a raid. So basically, when you're using it, it has a 5-minute cooldown, by the way. But now, every time someone attacks you, there's a 50% chance. Not in a raid, it will be 30% chance that you're not going to get any damage from that attack. We also have afflicting an enemy with sigil generates 1 lesser soul fragment. So, if we use a sigil, we'll afflict an enemy with a sigil, we also get a lesser soul fragment. Also, all our sigils now activate 1 second faster. So, when you actually place them on the ground, it's going to take 1 second faster to explode. Also, reduce cooldown of Metamorphosis by 60 seconds. And also, Sigil of Flame deals 70% increased damage and generates 2 additional fury per target hit. Now to the 2 very strong spells. We have the Hunt. When you use the Hunt, you deal 875k chaos damage directly, rooting them in place for 1.5 seconds, but also deals almost 700k damage over 6 seconds, so insanely strong spell. Also, now, for the next 20 seconds, 10% of all the damage you deal to the target is going to heal you for the next 20 seconds, which is insane because we have 10% leech, and this basically gives us 10% leech against that target, which is insane. We're going to do so much self-healing. We also have the Sigil of Spite. You place a demonic sigil at the target, activate it after 1 second. When it detonates, it basically deals 700k chaos damage again, and shatter up to 3 lesser soul fragments from enemies affected by the sigil. Deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So again, a very, very, very strong sigil. So yeah, that's the normal tree we have in the left side. Let's now jump to the hero tree in the middle. Alright, and then we have the hero tree in the middle. So basically, first of all, we have Art of the Glaive. Consuming 6 soul fragments or casting the hunt converts your next throw glaive into Reaver's Glaive. So what does Reaver's Glaive? Throw a glaive enhanced with the essence of consumed soul at your target, dealing 600k physical damage and jumping to 3 additional enemies. Begins a well-practiced pattern of glaive work enhancing your next Chaos Strike and Blade Dance. The enhanced ability you cast first deals 10% increased damage and the second deals 20% increased damage. So basically, every time you consume 6 souls, or it's basically those souls around you. Like every time you deal damage, you have like a chance to have like souls around you, and every time you consume them, you will, when you have 6 of them, consume 6 of them, you basically get this here, this Reaver's Glaive, or when you're using the hunt. Very important to know. We're basically using the hunt as an opener, so we always have it in the start of a rotation. Then we have when enhanced by Reaver Glaives, when we basically have the enhanced ability from this one here, the next Blade Dance casts 3 additional glaives slash to a nearby target. So basically, instead of only slashing, I don't know if it actually says how many times it slashes. It says slashes, it doesn't. But basically, it's going to be slashing more times, so it's going to deal more damage. If it is cast after Chaos Strike, it instead of 3 additional slashes, it will now do 6 slashes. We of course cannot control this because we're using the single button rotation, so we just have to hope that the single button rotation always uses it in the right order, but we cannot 100% guarantee. But no matter what, we're always going to get additional slashes, which is still fine. The second enhanced ability in a pattern shatters an additional soul. So basically the second enhanced ability you use is giving additional soul fragments, and we like souls because we want to use it to actually get into the Reaver's Glaives ability. Chaos Strike deals 10% increased damage. And then we also have consuming. After consuming both enhancements, so basically the one for Chaos Strike and the one for Blade Dance, so after consuming both of the enhancement, you gain Thrill of the Fight, increasing your attack speed by 50% for 20 seconds, and your damage and healing for 50% for 10 seconds. So after basically you have consumed all this, you get 50% increased attack speed and 50% increased damage and healing for 10 seconds. Well, this attack speed is 20 seconds, the damage and healing is for 10 seconds, but still pretty cool. Then we also have with enhanced by Reaver's Glaive. So when you use it on Chaos Strike applies a Reaver's Mark to the target, which causes the target to take 6% increased damage for 20 seconds, can actually stack up to 2 times. But if applies 1 additional stack of Reaver Mark if cast after Blade Dance. So a lot of people don't realize this. If listen to me, if you cast Chaos Strike first, then our next Blade Dance is going to slash additional targets. If we cast Blade Dance first, we're going to be casting 2 marks on the target ASAP, which is going to increase the damage. Instead of 26%, it's going to increase by 12%. So it doesn't really matter which one you use first, because if you're using Chaos Strike first, after you have cast a Reaver Glaive, if you cast Chaos Strike first, then Blade Dance is going to deal more damage. If you cast Blade Dance after Reaver's Glaive, then you're going to increase the damage to deal to 1 target because of, the mark. So of course, in an AoE situation, you would do Chaos Strike first and then a very strong Blade Dance. In a single target scenario, you want to cast Blade Dance first and then Chaos Strike. But again, we cannot control this because the single button rotation kind of controls it for us. So we just have to live with whatever enhancement we get. Then also expose weakness, which is up here. So expose weakness at the target of your Reaver's Mark. So when they have the Reaver's Mark on them, causing you physical damage to an enemy to also deal 20% of the damage dealt as marked target as chaos, and sometimes shatter lesser soul fragment. So now you might ask, okay, why is it important we deal chaos damage? Why is it important that 20% of the damage we should have normally deal to the target is now chaos damage? Well, because we have a mastery which increases all the chaos damage by 43%, which is quite nice. So now all the damage we deal have a chance on a Reaver's Mark target has now a chance, well, causing your physical damage to an enemy also to deal 20% damage as marked. So it says Also, so whenever you deal physical damage, you're going to deal 20% additionally damage to the target as chaos, and chaos is increased by 43% because of our mastery. So very nice, and also it has a chance to spawn even more souls. This one as well, consuming a soul fragment causes your next chaos strike to deal 36k additional damage, physical damage, and of course because of physical damage, it will deal 20% additional damage as chaos because of this one here. But now, Fellblade also consumes up to 5 nervy soul fragments, which is very nice. So now whenever you use like our Fellblade, it basically sucks in all the souls that you have around you on the floor, which is very nice. So that's why we're kind of using Fellblade in our rotation, like the standard rotation. Then we also have Vengeful Retreat resets the cooldown of Fellblade. So now, for example, if you want to, like we talked about, we have this one over here, which gives us crit, which can be reset by Vengeful Retreat. So what you basically would do is like you attack the target, you get the 10% increased crit, you use Vengeful, you use Fellblade, and you're back again, and you get 5 seconds again of the spell, of the buff here that gives you 10% crit. So basically, when you attack a target, you get 10% crit for 5 seconds. Then you use Vengeful Retreat, you use Fellblade, and it will reset the cooldown of this one here and give you 10% crit again for 5 seconds. This one can only happen one time on each target you attack before they attack you. So on a boss, for example, you would only be able to technically get this one time, but because Vengeful Retreat refreshes it to let us get it again. So just letting you know, so that's why Vengeful Retreat and now Fellblade is also part of the rotation, kinda-ish. Then we also have each soul fragment you consume shields you for an additional 50% of your amount healed. So dungeon players, they usually use this one here. Raid players, they usually use this one here, where Fellblade surround you with Blade Ward, reducing damage taken by 10% for 5 seconds. And Fellblade has a 13-second cooldown, but Chaos, I can't remember what it was. I think it was Demon Blades. Demon Blade has a chance to, Demon Blade has a chance to reset the cooldown of Fellblade. So technically, if you're lucky and you keep using Fellblade, you could keep up a 10% damage reduction. But this one here gives you a shield all the time, which is, I understand, because when you're fighting a lot of trash mobs, you have a chance to spawn a lot more souls, which of course is very nice. So yeah, mostly dungeons specs they use this one here. Raid specs they usually use this one here. It's kind of up to you. We also have Throw Glaive deals 18k physical damage to enemies in its initial target. So basically, when you are throwing Throw Glaives, it will kind of like do a little, as I understand, like a little explosion around the target it hits for like additional 18k damage. So yeah, it's a little damage boost. It's not much, but it's still like a little damage boost. So that's basically the hero tree. Let's move on to the Havoc tree. Lastly, we have the Havoc tree on the right side, where first of all we have Eye Beam. We are dealing, basically blasting everyone in front of you, dealing up to 1.9 damage, million chaos damage. And also it's 100% critting, like it 100% has critical strike, because of we have this one here down here, which is always making a critical strike. And we have this one here when you finish, like if you actually cast it fully, channeling fully, you get 10% haste for 10 seconds. So very big damage, 1.9 million damage. It's always going to critical strike, and it gives 10% more haste when you actually like fully channel it. So very, very strong spell. Then we have Demon Blade. It replaces one of our spam abilities called Demon Spite, but now it is just our auto attack. So every auto attack we now do is dealing 18k damage, shadow damage, and generate 7 to 12 fury. Very nice. Then we have Burning Hatred. Immolation Aura generates an additionally 40 fury over 10 seconds. Very nice, because you're actually going to be having multiple of these Immolation Aura active at the same time, so you're going to be getting so much fury. Then we also have Blade Dance, deal 350k chaos damage to the first target struck. Very nice. So the first enemy you actually attack with using this spell here, like it could be 5 enemies, but usually you attack first the one in front of you. You're targeting will actually get 350k additional damage. Then Frogglaive deals 60% increased damage, which is a lot, but it is reduced by 30 each time it attack another target. So first will be 60, second target will be 30, and third target will get 0% additionally damage. Then we also have magic damage increased by 3, and physical damage taken is reduced by 5. We also have Neverwalk. It's basically the Paladin's bubble, but instead you cannot attack at the same time. So movement speed is increased by 100, you become immune to damage, and you cannot attack. So it's a bubble that makes you run faster, and you cannot attack while it's active on you for 6 seconds. So very nice bubble, and it has a 3-minute cooldown. Then we also have a deflecting dance. You deflect incoming attacks while blade dancing, absorbing damage up to 50% of your maximum health. Then we also have this one here we have talked a lot about in the video so far. When you actually attack an enemy before they damage you, when you damage someone before they damage you, you increase your critical strike chance by 10 for 5 seconds. Every time you use Vengeful Retreat, you refresh this, the effect where you can actually trigger it. So basically you get first 5 seconds, then you can use Vengeful Retreat, and then you get 5 seconds again. And you keep getting 5 seconds every time you use Vengeful Retreat. So it's important we use Vengeful Retreat in our rotation. Then we have Scars of Suffering, increased versatility by 4, very nice. 4% more damage, 2% less damage taken, 4% more data healing, and also reduces the threat we generate by 8%. So we're gonna take less aggro from the tank. Then we also have Chaotic Transformation. When you activate a Metamorphosis, the cooldown of Blade Dance and I-Beam are immediately reset. So that's why in the rotation it's very important we use Blade Dance and I-Beam first. So usually you are using your single button rotation all the time until you use I-Beam, and then you can use your Metamorphosis. It was this one here, yeah. Throw glaive now costs 25 fury and throw a second glaive at the target. So basically when you throw your glaive, it actually throws 2 glaives at the target at the same time, which is quite nice. It's just additional damage. Also, the final slash of Blade Dance inflict additionally 100 chaos damage over 4 seconds. So you're basically casting a damage over time ability with Blade Dance as well. We also have I-Beam generate 40 fury every second, and its damage and duration is increased by 20%. This one here is a dungeon-only talent, so you only use it for a dungeon. In the raid, you don't have this one here. You actually take Tactical Retreat instead, which is making Vengeful Retreat has a 5-second reduced cooldown, and it generates 80 fury over 10 seconds. So yeah, dungeon, you use this one here. Raid, you're using this one over here instead. Then we have I-Beam deals always a critical strike, so this is the one that always made I-Beam critical strike. In raids, we use this one here. The final slash of Blade Dance deal additionally 25%, but in the raid build we have it twice, so that actually is, you pick it two times, so that means it deals 50% more damage. Then for the dungeon build only, Immolation Aura damage is increased by 10% each time it deals damage, so it will keep getting stronger. Then in the raid build we're using this one here. The Hunt and Vengeful Retreat increase your damage by 5% for 20 seconds. And then we also have Furious Gaze. When I-Beam finish fully, you get, when you actually cast it fully, you get 10% haste for 10 seconds. We also have Serrated Glaive. Enemies hit by Chaos Strike or Throw Glaive takes 50% increased damage from Chaos Strike and Throw Glaive for 15 seconds. Then we have another one which is only used in the dungeon build. Demon Blade and Throw Glaive are basically our auto attack, and Throw Glaive is now leaving an open wound on your enemies, dealing 100k chaos damage over 15 seconds, and increase the damage taken from Immolation Aura by 40%, may be applied up to 3 targets. So basically when you throw your Throw Glaive, all these targets here will automatically get that bleeding on them that deals 100k damage over 15 seconds, but now all of them is going to take 40% damage increase from Immolation Aura, which is why we only use it in a dungeon build, because on a raid build it wouldn't make sense against the boss, since the Immolation Aura isn't that important in a raid boss. Then just to double check again, then we have that was the one we just talked about. Yeah. Then we have this one here. Entering demon form causes you to your next chaos strike to unleash your inner demon, causing it to crash into your target and dealing 300k chaos damage to all nervy enemies, dealing damage reduced when it's over 5 targets. So basically, when you actually go into your Metamorphosis and you use Chaos Strike, you're kind of like releasing a demon out of your body that crashes into the target and deals 300k to all, like, you know, everyone around the target. So very, very nice. It can deal insane amount of damage because of our mastery, which can increase it up to 43%. And then we also have this one down here, which can make it deal up to 54% more damage as well. So it can really deal a lot of damage when it crits. Then we have Soul Scar. Throw Glaive causes the target to take an additional 80% damage dealt as chaos over 6 seconds. So very nice. So basically, whenever you use your Throw Glaive, they also take bleeding chaos damage, as we can probably say. Then we have Rage Fire. Each time you deal damage with each time Immolation Aura deals damage, 30% of the damage dealt by up to 3 critical strikes is gathered as Rage Fire. So basically, every time you deal damage with Immolation Aura and it crits, it will store 3 of the crits and then explode with it in the end. So basically, when Immolation Aura is done, it explodes and it will deal the damage equal to those 3 crits it actually dealt. So very nice. But then the main reason we have this one here is not because of that one here, it's the next one. When Immolation Aura... Oh, sorry, that was my bad. It was actually not because of that one there. It was actually... What I was thinking about is Immolation Aura. Which one was it? Oh, yeah, it was this one here. I judged. This one here is still good, of course, because it makes it like explode, dealing more damage. But it was actually this one here I was thinking about, because now this one here, you can have multiple Immolation Auras active at a time. I kind of like swapped them around. But that means now you could actually use 2 Immolation Aura at the same time. And yeah, basically have 2 going at the same time, giving fury, dealing damage and exploding. Very nice. Also, Immolation Aura has 1 additional charge, 30% chance to refund a charge when used, and deal chaos damage instead of fire damage. So this is very nice because now you have 2 charges every time you use it. It actually has a chance to kind of like, give it a charge again. And then technically you can have up to 3 or 4 going on at the same time, which is insane in a dungeon. But again, this is not used in the dungeon build. All these 3 over here, this one here is not used in the raid build, sorry. In the dungeon build it's used. But in the raid build, we are not using any of that Immolation Aura, since it doesn't really help much on a single target rotation. Then, where did we come to? Then here, gain critical strike damage equal to 80% of your critical strike chance. So the more crit you have, the more crit damage you also do, which is why we love crit in this spec here. Then also activating I-Beam, reduce the cooldown of your next I-Beam by 5 seconds, stacking up to 20 seconds. Then also this one here is crazy. Your chaos damage has a 7.77% chance to be increased by 17%. So basically, every time you use a chaos damage spell, it has a 7% chance to be increased by 17. And then this can actually happen. So let's say that, so the thing is, like, it can actually chain react. So technically, every time this happens, every time this effect happens, it will deal 17% increased damage. So let's say 17 and then 7 times. So technically, it can actually, if it actually works up to 7 times in one go, you can actually use a chaos spell that could be increased by 119% damage. This, of course, is a hugely big RNG, but it can technically work. So whenever this happens, imagine like it's throwing a dice. Like, you're taking a dice, you throw it, and then you roll a dice or whatever you say, and now it has a 7% chance to increase the damage by 17. If this happens, it rolls another dice, and it again has a 7% chance, and it can do it up to 7 times, and then basically the spell could end up dealing 190% damage. So 119 from this one here, and also 43% from this one here. Crazy. So yeah, so sometimes you see some really big crit numbers where you're like, wait, why did the hunt spell deal 2.3 million damage. Oh, that's because you have a lot of mastery and because you were super lucky with your chaotic disposition. Okay, yeah, good. And then of course we had this one here where you have one more charge on your aura, immolation aura, and also has a 30% chance to give you your charge back. And also now we can have multiple immolation aura active at the same time, which I first thought was this one here, but it's actually this one here. This one just makes it explode. And then we have Screaming Brutality. Blade Dance automatically trigger Throw Glaive on your primary target for 100% damage. And each slash, so every time like you're slashing, there's a 50% chance to throw glaive an enemy for 35% of the damage. So basically, when you are inside Blade Dance, it just has a chance to like throw out glaives to everyone, like, you know, just which is pretty cool. And then of course in the raid build, we are using also these two down here. So you can see it's these 2 here, this one here, and then this 2 down here. So we're basically giving up these, and giving up this one here, 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 and getting this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. So you can see like what I have right now, what I would lose. So losing basically this to get these. So basically in the raid build, we also use Essence Break, which is slashing everyone in front of you for 400k, and increase the damage of Chaos Strike and Blade Dance you deal to the dem for 80% damage for 4 seconds. So you can see again a very nice boss spell, like against the boss you can deal a lot of damage. It's also inside a single button rotation, so you don't have to worry about using that one. Then we also have this one here. The duration of your active demon form is extended by 0.1 second per 12 fury spent. So again, another cool one in a raid build, because it can give you a lot of like additionally fury. Not additional fury. Additionally longer time inside your metamorphosis, which is nice. I think that was it. Yeah, that's basically it. Cool. That was the talents. Let's go to the rotation. So, regarding the rotation, it's actually quite simple, but there is still a few things you need to think about. Actually, I think it's easy to like maybe move it around like this. So first of all, when we open on a boss, usually when you play this normally, you would play some sigils, you would use your immolation aura, some sigils before you start, but that would just add additional spells, and then it's like, why even use the single button assistant then? So what we actually have to do when we use the single button assistant is that we open up with the hunt. The reason for that is because it basically it deals 800k ASAP, it deals 600k over 6 seconds. It also makes our next throw glaive become a reverse glaive, which is going to increase, like, give us a lot of like passive effects we talked about in the talent section. And then we are going to wait for I-beam, and after I-beam has been used, we're going to be using Metamorphosis, because I-beam and Blade Dance cooldown is reset after using Metamorphosis. So wait using Metamorphosis until you have used Blade Dance and I-beam. So let me just enable an add-on here called, a lot of people keep asking about, but it's called Trophy GCD. What it do is it basically shows what spell I'm using, so I can follow my single button rotation. A lot of people say you don't learn anything from single button rotation. Well, you actually do if you're having the add-on on called Trophy GCD, because it basically shows all the spells I use. So for example here, it shows me that I use this spell here, so I can keep an eye on what spell does it use. So now you can tell back to all the haters out there, hey, I actually learned from this because Trophy tells me what spells my single button rotation is using. So let's try this. First thing again, you're gonna use the hunt. Then we're gonna spam our single button rotation. We're gonna wait till it actually has used our both Blade Dance and I-beam. So now it uses I-beam. Now it uses Blade Dance, and now we can use Metamorphosis. And then basically it's going to reset the cooldown on both I-beam and Blade Dance again. Very, very nice, very efficiently. And you can see I'm dealing 4 million damage on these mobs here with some really, really bad gear. Like, I have the most crappy gear on this Demon Hunter here, and still I was able to get a good 4 million DPS out of these mobs here. Very, very nice. Then there is one more thing. If you have, you can either keep this rotation here I just showed you. We open with the hunt, we keep using number 1 until they both have used Blade Dance and I-beam. But there is one more thing you can do to deal a bit more damage. So basically we have this talent here called Initiative, which is going to give us 10% more crit when we attack a target before they attack us. This can only happen one time, so you can see now if I attack the target here, it's going to give me basically 10% crit for 5 seconds. So now when I'm in combat with this target here, it cannot happen again. So how can we make this reset? By using Vengeful Retreat. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using your normal rotation. Now you have this buff for 5 seconds. Now it's going to go off, so I use Vengeful Retreat, using Fellblade to come in again, and now you get 5 seconds again. Very nice. So basically you should just keep using Vengeful Retreat in your in your rotation. Every time Vengeful Retreat is ready, use it. So every time it's ready, use it, because you're going to get 10% additional critical strike. And it's also very nice to use your Fellblade, because Fellblade deals both 120k damage, but it also sucks in all the souls. Let me kind of show it to you. So basically, we're going to go up to this single target mob here. I'm just going to quickly switch over to my raid talents. Nothing big is going to change in our rotation, except it's going to be using less immolation auras and more like single target stuff. But basically, when you are attacking the target, we're going to use the hunt. Now, what is going to happen is, because every time we consume 6 souls, you can see there's a soul over here. Every time we have these souls around, whenever you use Fellblade, you actually suck, I think, 5 of them in. Yeah, you get 5 of them in. So another reason for why Fellblade is very nice. So now, for example, I would use Vengeful Retreat, and I would use Fellblade to come back in, and also it will actually absorb in all the souls around me. So it's very nice to use Fellblade, because, you know, it gives you like 130k damage just ASAP, and it also sucks in all the souls around you, so you don't have to like manually run around to get them. You can actually just like use it and boom. Yeah. It's nice. It doesn't deal too much damage, as you can see here. It doesn't do too much damage. It's like down there, so it's not the best damage from it. But still, like now you can see there's 5 souls around me. I can use it, and boom, now I have out of the well, actually I need 1 more soul, but still, it helps you to give you more often of these procs here called Reaper's Glaive. So just so you know. So again, while you're fighting, let me try and explain. So while you're fighting, you get this buff here, then you use Vengeful Retreat, very fast, Fellblade, and then you get the buff again, so you get more crit. Again, if it's too much for you, don't think too much about it, just play. But still, it would be nice if you keep using Vengeful Retreat, keep using Fellblade, so you get those souls. So I would say, you know, don't have to spam Fellblade, but every time you can see the number on it, it says like, you know, between 3 or 5, you should be using it, because right now you would only be getting 1, but now you get 2, so okay, I could use it now. Fine, then I got 2 souls, now I still need 4 more. Oh, we got Vengeful Retreat, we're gonna use Fellblade, and so on. You might also have noticed that my single button assistance spell here looks a bit different. That's because I'm using a macro. So as you can see here, we have this macro here called here SBA DPS. So show tooltip basically shows which spell we're using. Then cast, no channeling, I-beam, single button system. What it means is that when it actually uses I-beam, I'm not allowed to use single button assistant spell, because if I didn't use this macro here and I kept pressing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, then it would automatically cancel our I-beam, which is not good. It would cancel our I-beam and deal less damage, and we would also not get the 10% haste from this one here. So you of course don't have to use this macro here. You could also just stop clicking while you're waiting, on I-beam to finish. But if you're like me, who just wants to press 1 all the time, like now, look, see, it becomes like a question mark, and then when I-beam is done, it goes back to my spell. If you are like me, you still want to see what your single button assistant is about to cast next time, you can still drag it down and put it somewhere. Like, you know, like me, I have activated my bar 6. So, you know, when you go into options, action bars, it's actually bar 8. Okay. I thought I also have, I have both there. Okay, cool. Now you can have like either bar 6 or 8, it's up to you. But I actually activated additional bar here, then I went into edit mode, put it over here, and now I can still see what spell I'm about to use. I just like that. But that's our main DPS rotation. Again, we have the raid build, we have the dungeon build. The dungeon build is more about an immolation aura, a lot of damage around to you. The raid build is more like getting a lot of buffs to deal more damage to instant, like, you know, to the target in front of you. So yeah, raid build, dungeon build. And again, we use the hunt, we use our single button rotation. When it has used blade dance, when it has used eye beam, then we use metamorphosis. And we use Fell Blade to get in the souls around us, and also we use it after we have used Vengeful Retreat to get back to the target again. Or else you're gonna be like, you know, you have to like run to it slowly to get back to your target, and you're gonna lose a lot of DPS. So if you use Vengeful Retreat and very fast Fell Blade, you can actually, you know, use them very fast after each other, which is very nice. Okay. So yeah, that's the rotation. But side of that, we also have Disrupt, which is our main interrupter spell ability. If the boss here was casting like a spell we don't want it to cast, so we can interrupt it. Boom, interrupt. And you can use it every 15 seconds. We also have Chaos Nova to stun mobs. You cannot stun bosses. But for example, in a dungeon with a lot of mobs, we could like stun it. We could even like stun everyone around you. We also have this one here where it fears everyone. So that basically means we have one AoE interrupt, two AoE interrupts. Then we also have Imprison, which is like, you know, we basically sheeping the target for 1 minute. And then the normal interruption. So we actually got 2 AoE interruptions and 2 single target interruptions, because we also have Fell Eruption, which is another interruption spell, which basically does like that, and then stun them again for 4 seconds. So we got 2 single target interrupts and 2 AoE interrupts and 1 sheep, whatever we call it. Then we also have Fell Rush, basically jumping around. It only deals 62 damage, 62k damage, so you shouldn't be using it in your normal rotation. We also have Blur. It increases our chance to dodge, by 50, and reduce all damage taken by 20. So very nice, like defensive buff. Then we also have Never Walk, increase movement speed by 100, but you cannot be attacked for 6 seconds. So basically, it's like the Paladin bubble, but now, for 6 seconds you get the Paladin bubble, but you cannot attack at the same time. But you get 100% movement speed, which is nice. Then we have Darkness. Basically, when you use it, when you're inside darkness, there's a 50% chance you can ignore all attacks to you. When you're not in a raid group, it's increased by 100, so it's 30%. And then we have the CC abilities. We also have our Consume Magic, so in case the boss gets a healing spell or something that, you know, magic that's gonna help them, we can reduce it. We can remove that magic effects. And also we have Spectral Sight, which can see enemies in stealth or like, you know, behind walls or behind floor. Yeah, basically like that. That's the entire rotation. My macro, which I showed you here, the macro here, you basically put in this text here, then you drag it down here, and that's it. That's the rotation. The Hunt, Eye Beam, Blade Dance, Metamorphosis, using Fell Blade to get in your souls, using Vengeful Retreat to reset your crit buff, or your interrupt abilities, your defense abilities. Yeah, that's it. That's really it. It's a super nice and fun spec. So I'm sure you're gonna have plenty of fun with this. So let's go to the gameplay video and actually see me playing this in real life. Alright, here we go. Let's see how much damage we can do. Keep in mind I have the most shitty gear ever. Looks like I'm the one in the party with the lowest HP, so I mean we do have a 79, but everything else I'm gonna be the one with the lowest HP, so let's see. We're gonna start with the Hunt. Gonna keep pressing 1. Whenever we have used Eye Beam, I'm gonna be changing into Metamorphosis. So far I am leading the damage by huge amount. That's very nice. Okay, yeah, this is nice. And it automatically knows when the target is close or far away. Like, that was really, really nice. Look at that. It's not gonna do a lot of damage again. I think we're gonna carry this team. Oh, he's gonna ignore taking all the small ones, like the bosses. That actually makes... Okay, that's gonna be interesting. Actually, I just realized, I think I'm... Yeah, I'm actually the only one that is max level in this group. I think that explains why my damage is higher, but still, I have a very shitty gear, so I wouldn't be surprised if these other guys has some good as well. We're gonna interrupt. I'm not gonna use my hunt because he's basically gonna die in 2 seconds, so we're just gonna keep it. But basically, I am pressing 1, 1, 1, 1, using 2 whenever it blinks, or whenever, you know, we have a lot of souls to pull in. So we're gonna press 1, 1, 1. Gonna use the hunt. Just pressing 1 again. I'm saving Metamorphosis to the boss, because the boss is gonna be like in very soon. He's gonna be just around the corner. Gonna make him stop healing. So basically I used the spell now, Imprison on that guy there, so he stops healing. Gonna interrupt him. Throw some glaives. If I'm lucky, I'm gonna have both the hunt and Metamorphosis ready for the boss. Nah, not ready. And I believe I-beam is almost ready. Since you're gonna die so fast, I'm just gonna use Metamorphosis at the start. Usually I would have waited for like spells, but since you're gonna die so fast in this dungeon here, we're just gonna pull it ASAP. Just pressing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Now let's use 2. Jump. Oh, okay. I was just about to reset the... What is it called? Reset the crit buff by using Vengeful Retreat, but he died. Not bad items. We're just gonna be casting whatever spells we can while moving. Oh god, you did not use I-beam. Well, I mean, that's one of the fun things with single bot on the system. You never know which spells it's gonna use. Gonna use the hunt to start. And we're gonna be spamming out a lot of damage. We're gonna use the Mars Fear spell. So now all the like a lot of the mobs is now gonna get feared. Because they were all like casting a lot of stuff, we're also gonna be using our Chaos Nova to stun them all. So basically he pulled a lot of mobs that was about casting nasty spells, so I used Sigil of Misery to fear them all. And then also Chaos Nova to stun them all. Very, very nice. And you just used I-beam just before the boss. Very nice. I like that. But I like the single button system because you can see here, it keeps doing whatever good damage that it feels like it can do. Again, I used Imprison on that mob over there, so for 1 minute he's just gonna stand there and do nothing. Gonna use my Vengeful Retreat, Bellblade, to get that 5-second crit buff again. Now I'm gonna use my Neverwalk. I know it's usually a defense spell, but it also makes me run 100% faster, which is very nice. I'm gonna be using my Metamorphosis, gonna interrupt her, and deal godlike damage. There we go. Very, very nice. Do we have some leather items? There. Good luck. So, yeah. A very successful run. I know it's a bit unfair, I was the only max level there, but I had the most trash gear, so I couldn't even sign up for a heroic raid. A heroic dungeon, sorry. So that was what we could do. But overall, I would say it was very fun. It felt very rewardful. So overall, I think this it works. Of course, a lot of people wants to prefer me showing this in a mythic run, but I just can't because I would have to farm a lot of gear. But then I wouldn't have time to actually make, you know, I wouldn't have time to make other guides as well. So this is what you get. So feel free to try out this build here. I'm sure you're going to love it, and you can use it basically for any content, any key you want to do. So yeah. Well, let's jump to the summary part where I'm just going to tell everything in 3 minutes. So, the summary, a very quick introduction to the Havoc Demon Hunters single button build. So basically, we always go with agility. What I mean by that is always having the highest upgrade level. So you know when you have an item like, for example, this one here, you can see this one here is veteran. That means I would never go down to a lower one, adventurer or explore item. You know, you can see this one is a veteran item upgrade level. That means I would only replace this one here if it actually had better secondary stats or it was one of the higher upgrade levels. No matter the stats of the upgrade level, of the higher upgrade levels, I would always go up to get the maximum, you know, of agility you can get. If then you get an item that is the same upgrade level as the one you have, that's where you need to look at the secondary stats. First of all, we want critical strike because we have a talent which basically makes all our crit deal more damage compared to our crit. So the more crit you have, the more crit damage you deal. Very nice. Then we also have mastery, which is increasing all our chaos damage and also makes us run faster. Very, very nice. Then we also have haste, which is making our reduced cooldown on global cooldown. So you know when we are using single button assistant, we get punished by 25% longer global cooldown. So haste can help with that. Usually you try to max get about like 20% haste, but still crit and mastery is more important. And versatility is just flat out increasing the damage and also reducing the damage we take, which is not that important. Then beside of that, we both have a dungeon. Oops, I forgot to remove one thing. There we go. Beside of that, we have a dungeon tree, which is all about immolation aura, getting more AoE damage out, like a lot of like a dungeon delve. Like this build here is the one you're going to be using for dungeon delves, questing, open world, blah blah blah. This is the ultimate build for that. And then we have a raid build which is way more focused on single target damage, like, you know, getting a lot of like damage buffs and so on. So yeah, but it would be it's basically the same rotation, no rotation changes in at all. But it's the same thing, like, you know, it's just like a lot of AoE damage from the dungeon build, and the raid build has a lot of like single target and buff damage. We're also running with the Aldragid Reaver, both for dungeon and raid. When it comes to rotation, you should start with the hunt. Basically, then you're gonna be spamming one until it uses both I-beam and both blade dance. So now it's gonna use I-beam, now it's gonna be using blade dance, and now we're gonna be using our Metamorphosis to basically reset the cooldown on both I-beam and blade dance again. So that's the reason for why we're doing that, because we want to. So you use the hunt to start, then you spam one until it uses both I-beam, then it's going to be using blade dance, and then you use the Metamorphosis, and then you can use I-beam and blade dance again. Also, we have this buff here which gives us 10% crit for 5 seconds every time we attack a mob before they attack us. So when I attack this mob here, I'm going to now get a buff that deals, so I have 10% more crit. The only way to reset that in the same combat session is by using Vengeful Retreat, then using Fellblade to come close to the target, and you can see here, and then you get those 10% crit again for 5 seconds. So basically, you should just keep using Vengeful Retreat whenever you can to keep getting this crit buff. And if you're very fast, you can use Fellblade at the same time right after, so you can, like, you know, jump away, jump in again, and then you get your crit buff, which is quite nice. But again, the opener is the hunt, then spam one until it uses I-beam, it uses blade dance, and then you use Metamorphosis to reset those two cooldowns, and you continue. That's the rotation. Spam one, always use the hunt on the, of course, and then use the hunt as well inside, like the whenever you can use it and after you have used it. But again, you start with the hunt, you spam one until you use I-beam, dance blade, then use Metamorphosis, and it's gonna reset, start, and you know, you just keep going. Super simple, super easy, and you're gonna do great damage. Then I use one macro, which is this one here. show tooltip, cast, no channeling, I-beam, single button assistant. Basically what it does is that, so if I want to spam press 1 for using the single button assistant, we cannot interrupt I-beam because we want I-beam to finish 100% because then we get 10% haste for 10 seconds. So we don't want to interrupt I-beam, so that's why I use this macro here, so it doesn't interrupt my I-beam. Very, very important. So you create this macro here, drag it down on your bar here, and then it's not going to interrupt your I-beam at all. So you can safely just spam 1, 1, 1, 1. But that was the stats. That was the talents. That was the gameplay. That was the summary. And that's basically it. So, yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching, everyone. That's what my Havoc Demon Hunters single button build guide. And very fun spec to play, very simple with the single button assistant. You're gonna have tons of fun with it, and especially now with the Legion Remix out, I learned a lot of people out there waiting for using this build here as well on Legion Remix, but I'm sure you're all gonna have a great time with this. So again, thanks everyone for watching my guides. If it wasn't because of you, is that the right way to say it? I wouldn't make all these guys because they take a lot of time. It takes me 6 to 12 hours to get these videos out. And because of all the reactions, the comments, the feedback I get from all of you, that's what keeps motivating me to keep continuing making these guides. So big thank you to you all. In case you want to support further by just watching, you can also become a YouTube member. You will get some perks on YouTube, badges, emotes, and you're also going to get some behind the scene footage, and you also what is it called? Your name is also going to be in the end of the video. We currently have 13 people in there, so I highly appreciate everyone who's a YouTube member there. But again, thank you so much everyone for watching my videos, interacting with me. And again, all my guides, all my builds, all my talents, UI, everything is on my Discord. So in case you want to be able to very quickly export it into your own game, you can come to my Discord, and both the talent and UI strings are going to be over there waiting for you. So thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next guide.